Now let me show you how I transform this dress from this to this. I'm going to be taking you through all the process from start to finish. The first thing that I'll be doing is to cut out the length of my skirt out of the bubble, and I'll be using the remaining parts for the top of the new dress that I made. I'm cutting out the sleeve and the hem of this top because I'll not be needing it in the new dress that I want to make, and I want this top to be flat so that I'll be able to cut out my top as I want. This is the basic bodice that I'll be using to draft out my bustier, and these are the materials that I'll be using to draft out my bustier. If you don't have a pattern master as a beginner, please you need to get one. Now from the chest line, I'm going to go up by half of an inch. You can maintain the chest line or you go up or you go down, depending on how covered you want your bustier to be. Now from my nipple point, I measured down because I want to get my bust band. So I repeat what I have from my nipple point to the under bust, and I repeat it upward. Now from the measurement, I just came down by 1 inch because you do not necessarily need to maintain the bust band line, okay? I'm going to be using my pattern master to connect from the new bust point line to the center front line. So I'm just going to arrange my pattern master very well so that the shape of the curve that I want will come out well. I'm going to add extra papers to the armhole area because I want my bustier to have extra support at the side. Please, if you are not busty, you don't need to do all of this, okay? There are some things that I'll be doing on this pattern that if you are not busty, you don't have to do it, okay? Like this one. I'm going to go up by 1 inch on my armhole line. I'm going to make a point there, and with my ruler, I'm going to blend it in with the rest of the bodies just like I have done. And with my ruler again, I'm going to use the curve part to connect from the bust span to the points that I marked at the armhole side. So you just have to arrange your ruler very well, and this is not constant. You can be creative with it and do the kind of shape that you want. On the bust that here, I'm going to mark 1/4 of an inch towards the center front and 1/4 of an inch towards the armhole side, and with the curve of my ruler, I'm going to connect these 2 points to my bust point, okay? If you are not busty, you can use 1/2 inch towards the center front and 1/4 of an inch towards the armhole side because this is a strapless bustier. I'm going to close up the new dart to check if my bustier is going to match at the top. Can you see the way that I am folding it? Take your time to fold the dart properly. You can see that the lines of the bustier are not matching. Now we need to fix that. So with my ruler now, I'm just going to decide which of the lines that I want to continue. I want to continue with the one that is coming from the armhole, so I'm just going to rule it to my center front. Can you see that? So please go ahead and do the same thing, and I'm just going to be marking the points, the break point, so that when I open up my pattern, I'll be able to know where to cut. So I'm going to be folding this together to show you guys how my cup is going to look when I am done sewing it. Can you see that we have a very big space for my bust to sit in eventually? So that is the work of the new dart that I took earlier. Now I'm going to be tightening my armhole side by 1 inch. So I marked 1 inch at the armhole side, and I'm just going to connect it down to my under bust line, okay? I do this because I am busty and I have flesh on my armhole side. So if you are not busty at all, you don't have to do this as well. I want my top to stop on my natural waistline, and that is why I reduce the length of my bodies. Now I'm going to be cutting this off, and please take your time to watch how I am cutting it so that you know where to cut on your pattern. So now that is going to be my center front, and I'll just go ahead and cut out this side. So go on and follow exactly what I am doing. I'm going to cut out the armhole tightening as well because it's not going to be part of my work. Now we have our pattern ready, center front and the side front. Okay, I can only hope that you guys understand what we have been doing so far, because now we are moving on to draft the back pattern. We are not doing much here, just some little adjustments. Okay, so from my armhole I just go up by 1 inch and I'm going to slant it into the center back. This is totally optional, you can decide to leave your own straight, and I'm going to be reducing the length as well to stop on my natural waistline. Okay, so now I'm going to be tightening the new line that I have on my armhole by half of an inch on both sides. Okay, that is the maximum that you can use, half inch on both sides, and you connect it to your waistline with a straight ruler. Okay, on this line here, which is the line that comes from the underbust line at the front, I'm going to measure 1/4 inch down and 1/4 inch up. This is to avoid bulging at the back. Okay, you can do more or you can do less. You can do 1 inch on both sides depending on the size that you're working with, or you can do half of an inch. Everything is just dependent on the sides. So I'm going to fold it up just like I have done, because we don't want any cutting on our fabric, and I'm going to tape it down. So after doing that, I'm going to be cutting out the top like this. Okay, and don't forget that we have to tighten the armhole at the back as well with 1 inch, and I'm going to just blend it in, and that is not going to be part of our work, it's going to be cut out. Okay, so now the last thing that I'm going to be doing now is to fold my the darts that leads to the top of this pattern paper, because I don't want any cuts at the back of my fabric. So I'm just going to be redrawing the lines, because after the tightening that we did, the line has broken. So I'm just going to redraw it like this, and I'm going to fold it together carefully and then go ahead and secure it with my paper tape. So you can go on and trim off any size that is looking weird, just a little bit. Okay, so just go ahead and trim it off just like I am doing here. Alright, so now that is all that you need to do at the back of your pattern, and I'm just labeling my pattern so that I don't mix it up when I want to cut. So that's all for the drafting. So guys, here is my fabric, and I'm going to be using my pattern to cut it out. I use 1 inch for the hem, the side and the center back, but if you want to cut your own, I would advise that you use 1.5 for the side and the center back. I am doing this because I don't have enough fabric. Okay, this is my side front, and for the parts that I'm going to be joining with my center front, I'm going to be leaving half of an inch stitching allowance. But for the side that I'm going to be joining to the side of my back, I'm going to be leaving 1 inch. You can use 1.5 inch for this, and for the top I left about half of an inch. And don't forget to cut out your center front as well. So after you've cut out your fabric, you're going to be using it to cut out your BFF to stabilize your fabric. Okay, and you go ahead and cut out lining for your fabric as well. You can decide to cut out a BFF for your lining as well, but I decided against it. I'm going to trim off the excess that I have after attaching my BFF to my fabric. This is not the right way to attach your BFF to your fabric, but I did this because of some situation that I had. Okay, so I've gone ahead to join my center front together and iron it out because I did not cut it on fold. Okay, so now I'm going to cut out a lining piece for it because I did not cut it for it earlier, and this is because the center front is not cut on fold. I didn't cut it on fold because I wanted to have some kind of like a design, you know. So but in most cases you have to cut your center front on fold. So guys, after cutting it out, this is what I have, and can you see how it is matching? Okay, So I'm going to be working on the fabric first and then I'll work on the lining later. So I'm going to be joining the sides to the center front. Can you see right sides facing each other? I'll go ahead and sew. Now let's go to the sewing machine. So guys, we are here now and I'm going to be showing you how to join your bustier together. The first thing that you need to take note of is that the right side must face each other, and here I'm just showing you how to recognize which side of your fabric is going to be matching with the center front. Okay, so after you pick up the side, you're going to match each other together, right side facing each other, and you sew from the down parts. This is to make sure that everything is matching perfectly. So I do this a lot and it has always worked for me. So when you get to the under bust here, you're going to tilt your machine and sew through with 1/2 inch that you left while cutting your fabric. It must not be more than 1/2 inch. If you need to mark it out, please go ahead and mark it out. And you have to be very careful when you are doing this and take your time as well, okay? So can you see that is our cup and you can see how perfect it is looking. So this is another thing that you must do on your fabric after joining it. You are going to notch it so that your bustier is going to be very relaxed at the cup area. So after notching it, you just trim off the excess. Can you see how relaxed it is looking? So I'm going to be joining the other side with the center front and we are going to be repeating the same thing that we did earlier, okay? After sewing it through, you need to notch this side as well, because whatever you do for one side, you have to do it for the other side. And don't forget, this is very important because you want your bustier to look smooth and not bulky. So after notching it, you trim off the excess that you have. So this is our bustier. Can you see how it looks even before ironing it out? So I'm going to be putting this aside and work on the lining. So everything that you've done on the fabric, you're going to repeat it on the lining. You join the sides and you join the second sides. You're going to sew through with 1/2 inch that you left, and after sewing you notch and you trim off all the excess that you have. So now that our lining piece is ready, I am going to be matching it with my fabric, which I have ironed out off camera. So can you see, you're going to iron out your fabric and you iron out your lining piece as well. So guys, the next thing that I'll be doing now is to match both my lining and my fabric together, and while making sure that the important points are matching each other perfectly. And while doing this, I'm going to use my pin to hold them together so that when I am sewing it, it will be very easy for me. Please go ahead and do the same thing on your fabric. If your lining and your fabric are not matching, then something is wrong. You must have sewn more than the allowance that you left, or you don't sew all the allowance. It's either one of the two. So now I'm going to be inserting my rope on the joining that we have at the center front. Okay, so I'm going to be placing it in between the fabric and the lining. So, and I'll do the same thing for the other side as well, and I'll go ahead and secure it with a pin. So after doing this now, I'm going to sew through with 1/2 inch that I left. If you're a beginner, I would advise that you mark out your 1/2 inch so that when you are sewing, you are also maintaining the shape of your bustier. You remember that the shape of our bustier is not straight, so you need to follow the shape of your bustier. That is why I would advise that you mark it out first before sewing, okay? So when I get to the middle, I'm going to raise up my machine like this. Can you see? And I'll tilt it like this to sew through the shape of my bustier, and this is why I advise that you mark out your 1/2 inch so that this will be very easy for you to do, okay? And don't forget to back stitch on your rope to make sure that it is well secured. So guys, now we are done, and this is what I have. If the shape of your bustier is not coming out well, then lose it and do it again. Can you see how secure the rope is looking? So now the next thing now is to notch. I'm going to be notching the middle of my bustier at the center front. This is very important. You're going to notch it and be careful so that you don't cut through your fabric. And I'll notch the other sides, the other curve of my bustier. Can you see what I am doing? And I'll do the same thing for the other side of my bustier, just like this. And I'll trim off the excess that I have. And while doing this, leave a little bit of fabric because we are going to be top stitching. To top stitch, open your fabric to the right side. Can you see, just like this? The excess that we left earlier, you are going to push it towards the lining and you are going to sew through very close to the stitching that you have. This is not hard to do. Please just watch what I am doing and be careful while doing it. Can you see? So I am pushing back the rope towards the fabric and I'm going to go ahead and sew through. So when you get to the middle of your center front, you are going to be pushing both your fabric and your lining to sides so that it's going to be easy for you to sew through. Please just watch what I am doing, please. And when you get to the end, you back stitch and you cut out your rope. Now this is what I have. Can you see now? So the next thing you just have to do now is to iron out your fabric and everything is going to be looking good. I'm going to be putting this aside for now and let's work on the back fabric. I have both my lining and fabric here and I'm just going to be using my lining to turn my fabric. So I'll be placing my lining on the right side of my fabric and I'm going to sew through with half of an inch. Right here now I am sewing the top with half of an inch and I'll go ahead and sew the sides and the center back, everything with half of an inch. And when I'm done, I'm going to trim off any excess that I have and I'll go ahead and iron it out. So guys, I have both my back pieces right here and I'm just going to be attaching them to my front piece. But before I do that, I'm going to be using the lining to turn over my front bodies. Okay, so this is the side and I'm just sewing through with half of an inch. You can see that I have turned the front piece over to the wrong side and I'm using the lining to sew through with half of an inch. So I'm going to be doing the same thing for the other side, and when I'm done, I'm going to turn it over to the right side and I'll iron it out. Thank you so much for watching this far, and after turning it over to the right side, the next thing that I'm just going to do is to join both the front and the back pieces together, right sides facing each other, don't forget. And with that, we are almost done with the front bodies. The next thing is to hem it and attach your zipper. Okay, so now let's work on the skirt part. I am not going to do too much for the skirt. All I just have to do is to create the space at the waist that the rope is going to pass through. Remember, we have this elastic sleeve that is on the bubble. Yeah, so I'm just going to be cutting this one out and I'll be using the green fabric to create the rope for the skirts, and that's it. There is no standard measurements for the rope. You can make it as long as you want and you can just make it exactly the same size of the skirts, depends on what you want. And then guys, we are back to the sewing machine and this is me just sewing through the waist of my skirts with half of an inch, which is where the rope is going to be passing through. Okay, I'm just sewing through with half of an inch because I want my waistline to be thin. If you want something bigger, you can just use maybe like 1 inch to create the space that the rope is going to pass through. So this is my rope. I cut them in pieces, so I'm just going to be joining them together and I will sew them and then turn them over to the right side, making it a rope. Also, the width of my rope is just about half of an inch, alright, because I need this to pass through the space that I create on the waist of my skirt, and that's it. And don't forget to turn your rope to the right side, and when you are done, you're just going to use a safety pin to insert it inside your skirt, and that's it. Now this is our bustier, and the last two things that I am just going to be doing here, like I told you, is to fix the zip and use a bias to turn the hem.